This is going to be a pretty interesting discussion to dive into, and there is one name in the forefront that deserves all of our attention from it. Let's talk about this post made by Andy Strickland on Twitter. He posted about how he spoke to an NHL executive. Said NHL executive suggested if a National Hockey League player negotiates a no-trade or a no-move clause in their contract, but then requests to be traded prior to the expiration of their deal, the no-trade should be voided, and the team should be allowed to trade the player to any team in the league. Now, the reason we are making this video is because the idea itself, it's pretty cool, right? It's something that I think a lot of fans have been proposing for a while now, but there's a difference between us on Reddit going out there and talking about this stuff and actual people that work in the league hypothesizing whether or not this would make sense too. Andy Strickland, of course, he does stuff for the St. Louis Blues, and I'm pretty sure he's on the FanDuel Sports Network, something like that. I know he has his own podcast, The Cam and Strick Show. That's been there for a while. But if we have NHL executives hypothesizing and brainstorming about voiding trade protection for players, it all of a sudden gets a lot more interesting and asking whether or not this is a realistic possibility. Gino Hard went out there and posted about it, which gave the entire thing more attention. Their post yesterday had 263,000 views. As trade requests become more common, one NHL executive has a solution for players who ask out. Is it fair, or is it too harsh? And of course, the Strickland tweet is linked at the bottom. Now, the funny part is, the graphic that they used features none other than Dylan Larkin of the Detroit Red Wings, Brady Tkachuk of the Florida Panthers, and Quinn Hughes of the Minnesota Wild. And a lot of the replies are going out there and saying, hey, wait a minute, why is Quinn Hughes on this graphic? That guy, he didn't have any trade protection. That was part of the reason the Quinn Hughes sweepstakes was so interesting. It's because he didn't have any no move, no trade, no whatever. He was available to go wherever the Canucks wanted to send him. It's just, due to circumstances, he kind of had the ability to choose where he was going to get traded to. Yes, Jim Rutherford gave Quinn a lot of authority when Quinn didn't necessarily deserve it. Contractually speaking, at least, you can say whether or not he actually deserved it based off of the quality of his talent, but they didn't need to do that for Quinn. But they did. They said, hey, Quinn, where do you want to go? We'll try to trade you somewhere where you could actually sign and not a place where they're just going to use you as a rental. And besides, teams weren't really willing to trade for Quinn Hughes without some sort of an idea that he would be interested in coming back. There were only two teams that really were in on Quinn Hughes at the end of the day. It was New Jersey, who just couldn't give an offer that was as good as the Minnesota package, and then there was Minnesota. All these other teams, Detroit, whatever, they were kind of scared about giving up a big package only for what would have been a year and a half of Quinn Hughes. So, yeah, he doesn't really belong on this graphic. Brady Tkachuk does, though, and we can go out there and make a video about what was reported on that. More on Brady later in today's show, most likely. But Dylan Larkin is the interesting one here. Obviously, he is the poster child for what would be this discussion on voiding trade protection for players and asking whether or not it's harsh or what have you. At the end of the day, it goes both ways. Some of the replies go out there and say, yeah, this is fair. You are weakening my team by removing yourself, and so I should be able to seek equal value in return. No trades and no moves are there for the purpose of players to get security with their lives and their families and their location. Not everybody is willing to go everywhere. And that could be due to the quality of life, the city itself, the climate, the atmosphere, the location, the time zone, the children, the schooling, the whatever. not necessarily just, okay, well, the hockey team in Seattle is bad, so I don't want to go to Seattle. Like, there are a number of reasons why players would want to stay. But when you do ask out, that's where things get very interesting, because all the leverage is with the player. At least, only to an extent. We are learning now with the Dylan Larkin situation that, yeah, even though you have the power to determine where it is you get traded to, sometimes you have the power, you're not as strong as He-Man. Sometimes you just don't get traded because your list is not big enough and or the contractual commitment is too long that you're going to have to stick around with your initial team if they don't find a trade to get you off of the team in the first place. That's the entire conundrum here. If Steve Yzerman just had more opportunity, more leeway, more options to trade Dylan Larkin, firstly, it would drive the price for him up, because there would be more teams in the mix, there would be more teams legitimately able to acquire him. They don't have to restrict themselves to negotiating only with the 4 teams that Larkin was willing to go to. That makes it a lot easier for Stevie Y, assuming he was still on the team. But also, it adds more of a sort of FOMO-induced panic for the teams that could be going out there and trading for Larkin. It drives up the price, but it also drives up the desperation. Other teams might be thinking, okay, well, if Dylan Larkin is available to get traded anywhere, all it takes is one team to call and make a big offer, and then he's gone. Look at all the centers available in the free agent market. Spoiler alert, there weren't any. So we have to pounce when the iron is hot if there is a guy available. But because Larkin has stalled it so much by only saying he wants to go to 4 teams that don't even have the assets to trade Detroit to get him in the first place, now it's like, all right, well, what other options are there? The Red Wings may just hold on to this guy for the next 5 years, and we might not actually be able to get him unless he widely opens up his trade destination preferences. So, in theory, this idea of voiding trade protection in the event that the player asks out, he legitimately asks to leave. Firstly, I feel like there would need to be some sort of a verification process. Like, we learned that Dylan Larkin asked out from Detroit because Elliot Friedman reported it one day. But I don't want to say this and think that it's something that generally could happen, but like, what if Friedman is wrong? What if somebody reports something and it's not actually genuine, and then we have to go through the entire song and dance of thinking, oh, well, Larkin requested a trade. Well, he can get traded anywhere now. And then like a week later, it's like, oh no, he actually didn't request a trade. I feel like there needs to be some sort of a legitimizing process that allows us as consumers of the product and the media of the product to get up-to-date info and valid info as to whether or not these players actually do ask out. Like, in order to formally construct a process where the move protection is voided in the event that the player asks out, you would need to find a way to figure out, okay, like, does Dylan Larkin actually want to get traded? Is he just kind of insinuating that he wants to get traded? Because if he goes to the GM and submits a verified, legitimate, in-person, hey, I want to leave this team, now you can void my trade protection type of thing, then okay, that'd be easy to do. I just don't know if that's how it's done in the National Hockey League, you know? Like, I feel like player trade requests can be done a variety of ways, and sometimes they can be done without even notifying the general managers of these teams. Are they done through the agent? Do the agents leak it out to the media rather than leaking it out to other teams first? Or the GM of said team, which owns the player currently? There needs to be a legitimate verification process for the status of trade requests in order to fully lock in a system where trade requests void trade protection. But that's just me. You can let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about all this? I feel like it'd be tough to mediate, but it does work in my brain in theory. You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.